Good morning, welcome back to Aliyah Yomi. Today we're going to be learning Behar Rishon, the first Aliyah in Parshas Behar. Our Parsha as a whole is 57 psukim. It is a short Parsha. Our first Aliyah containing 13 of those 57 psukim, running from Perek Chaf Hey Pasuk Aleph to Yud Gimel. Let's take a look at a brief overview of our Aliyah and then get some ideas deeper ideas to ponder. The Aliyah is broken into two. One is talking about, the first part is talking about the Shemitah year, the Shiviis, and then it's talking about the Yovel, the Jubilee year as well. So let's take a look at this in pieces. The first 7 psukim are about Shemitah. We're told that the nation of Israel were told at Har Sinai these laws, and that is that every 7 years, Shav Saharetz Shabbos LaHashem, the land will rest to Hashem. For 6 years you can do all these activities, and you can plant, and you can prune, and you can do all this business and gathering and everything. But on the 7th year, Shabboson Yeh La'aretz Shabbos LaHashem, 7 years, it's the 7th year to Hashem. And we're told there's certain things one cannot do: no pruning, no cutting, no planting, all these things. And this is the day. This is the Shabbos Haaretz Lachem Lachla. It'll be for you to eat. For everybody who is with you as well. And therefore anybody else can come and eat from the field. It's sort of open to all. We then hear that you should count for yourself sheva pamim. To count 7 sevens, and on that 7 sevens there is going to be a blowing of the shofar on Yom Kippur. On the 10th of the month, Yom Kippur, you blow this horn and enters the 50th year. That year is called Krosim Dror Baritz, you're called liberty in the land, L'chol Yoshvea, for all its inhabitants, Yovel Hi Tieh Lachem. It'll be this Jubilee year for you. Everybody will return. It's a return of land, it's a return of slaves, as we will see. Again, it acts like Shemitah. You're not allowed to plant it, you're not allowed to invest in it as well. And everybody's going to return to their respective places. A lot of very beautiful ideas over here. Let's start at the very beginning. Why is this Aliyah, why is this Parsha described as something which was taught at Har Sinai? Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Behar Sinai Lemor. The Rei Rashi famously questions it, is Ma Inyan Shmita Etzel Har Sinai. Why is Shemitah being related to being taught at Har Sinai? Surely all the mitzvahs are taught at Har Sinai. Why is this being isolated? Rashi explains, quoting the Medrash, that this you see all the very specific details in the halachas of Shemitah, which are Shvius, which are mentioned over here, and it is meant to be an example to teach us that just like all these details were attributed to being taught at Sinai, therefore any other details you may not have found at the Har Sinai experience explicitly in the Torah, and they are described later, were actually taught at Har Sinai. They're just the details being given later on as well. Which leads us to the question is, why was the mitzvah of Shvius or Shemitah the one that was chosen to be the one to express all these details at Har Sinai? So the Midrash Tanchum at the very beginning of Sefer Vayikra describes, quoting a very beautiful pasuk in Tehillim, in Kuf Gimel, Baruch Hu Hashem Malachav, blessed Hashem are His angels, Gibori Karach Oysa Devara, those who are strong of spirit who do His will. What is this referring to? So the Midrash says this refers to the Bnei Yisrael who keep Shvius, Shomrei Shvius. Why are the Shomrei Shvius so important? This is because a regular person, let's say he has to keep Shabbos or has to perform a particular mitzvah, it's time bound. There's a certain time one needs to do it, and even if the mitzvah comes at great sacrifice, still there's a few moments, there's a day, maybe a few days that a person has to contend with this mitzvah, and then it's over. When it comes to Shvius, a person who's a farmer is walking out for an entire day, paying the taxes on their land, but not being able to do anything. They look at they look outside, they see the profit they could have made, they see the land that's fallow that they could have been giving fruits, which would have been at least food for their family and certainly business and money for their future, and they leave it all fallow. And it's an entire year of gevura, of strength. That's a remarkable feat. It's one of the hardest mitzvahs to accomplish if a person is a farmer. And that's why the Osnaim Torah says that this is why this mitzvah is related to Har Sinai. Why is this related to Har Sinai? Simply because it is a mitzvah in which we go back to the moment where Bnei Yisrael says Na'aseh v'nishma, like angels, they said we will do and we will listen. They accepted doing whatever it is, even the most unbelievably difficult mitzvahs like Shvius, the ones which require the most amount of strength and resilience, were accepted out of Sinai, like when Bnei Yisrael were angels. And so we're being reminded, we're being reconnected to Sinai, which is the time, at the Sinai time when Bnei Yisrael accepted this. That's the idea over here. Now, what is the idea of Shemitah? Why is it Shabbos Shabboson Yeh La'aretz? Why is this the day of rest for the land? So the Malbim has a very beautiful observation where he points out that really, technically speaking, every 7 days there is a resting day, but that's a resting day for humans and animals. Right, on that day, human beings are not allowed to work. Your animals are not allowed to work as well, and that's wonderful. But the land doesn't work. No, the land does not rest. Why does the land not rest? For a simple reason: is you can't say I'm going to plant my wheat and then every 7 days on Shabbos I'm going to stop the wheat from growing. The wheat's growing. You planted it. It grows. You can't water it on Shabbos, but the wheat is growing whether you like it or you don't like it. So the land never really gets a rest, which means to say at the end of 1 year there are roughly 52, depending on if lunar calendar, solar calendar, roughly 52 days, 52 days which did not get rest, and they should have. Those are the 52 Shabbosim. After 2 years, there's now 104 days where the land did not get the rest that it deserved. After 3 years, and you can see how the pattern works, 156 days did not get rest. If you add this up, at the end of 7 days, actually, there are 364 days which did not get a rest because of the 52 days every year, which means to say that the way the Torah structures it is it moves all the missed days when the land could not get rest because the land can't stop being worked or doing its job when it's when it's just every 7 days every week. So the Torah puts all those missed days together and gives it an entire year of Shabbos. The human beings and the animals get Shabbos every 7 days. The land has it all congregated into 1 year, and that adds up to 7 years. So instead of once every 7 days, it's once every 7 years, and the land now gets a conglomerate of rest. This, by the way, is a very good, compelling argument as to why rabbis should get sabbaticals. But nonetheless, the Malbim says this is the idea of Shemitah. Rav Hirsch points out that when it comes to Shabbos and Shemitah, there are a few differences in halachas. So, for instance, when it comes to Shabbos, we take the cases of the Isser Malacha on Shabbos when it comes to, let's say, dealing with the land, as examples, avos and therefore toldos, that we take what are the primaries and the subsidiary malachas, and they're all asa. Whereas when it comes to Shemitah, we only prohibit the specific activities the Torah lists over here, very, very specific set of malachas, as well, mid-araisa on a biblical level. There may be some derabbanans or rabbinic added, but on a biblical level, it's very limited. Why is there a difference? So Rav Hirsch points out that when it comes to Shabbos, the idea is to acknowledge Hashem as the creator of the world. If we're acknowledging Hashem as the creator of the world, then we need to desist from any of our own creative activity. It's much more absolute. When it comes to Shemitah, the notion is not that. The notion is, and to quote Rav Hirsch, is the recognition and acknowledgement of God as the owner of the land of Israel needs no more than the placing of the ground under the rule of the master. The thought of real owner of the land does away with the idea of its being at the disposal of the fief holder to work the ground and harvest its products for himself in his own sweet will. So to express this is enough just to stop these specific activities which create the sufficiency from the land. So that's what Rav Hirsch points out in terms of understanding differences. Now you'll notice that the Yovel begins with the shofar blast. The shofar blast takes place on Yom Kippur. What's the connection between Yom Kippur and the Yovel? Why does it start then and not at Rosh Hashanah? So it's actually interesting that Shiviis And Yovel, quoted in the Otzar Gaonim, points out that this is the reason why we blow the shofar blast. One of the reasons we blow the shofar blast on Motzi Yom Kippur as a commemoration of the Yovel, of the Jubilee year. What's the connection itself? There's a lot of very, very beautiful ideas to share, but one idea that is the idea of the Lubavitch Rebbe in Likutei Sichos, where he points out in the 34th volume, page 96, the following observation, that after we blow an entire month blow the shofar for an entire month of Elul all the way through, we're trying to get closer, we're trying to free ourselves. At the end, the last tekiah is, he says, in Yana, its matter is Hatzaka Hapnimis Me'etzem Anashama Shilamala Mikol Inyan Shel Tziyur. This last blast is not a shvarim trua. It's simply the last sort of groan of a person who's worked all this time, just wants to come closer, wants to be free, and that's really what the happens on the Yovel as well. We so want to be free. We so want to be beyond where we are right now. We want to return to a new starting point. That's what happens at the end. This is why the Yovel is connected to Yom Kippur itself. This moment of freedom as well. And what is the notion of the Yovel, of the Jubilee year? So it is a very fascinating thing. In fact, in the Liberty Bell in In America, engraved upon it is the pasuk from our Aliyah, cross and draw ba'aretz, shall call liberty upon the land, to all its inhabitants. Then it was used politically to notion that to civilize the idea of being free from being under autocratic kings and dictators. But in the Torah, the idea is that there's almost like a societal reset, both agriculturally and economically. There's a reset of the entire system and culture at that point in time. In fact, Rashi points out that when it comes to the beginning of Parshas Mishpatim, that a slave who does not want to leave servitude, v'avodah la'olam, he'll serve the master forever until the Yovel, and he has his ear which is pierced. Why? Rashi points out that because this person either stole, didn't listen to the Torah, or because he made the mistake of thinking that it's all right to be a servant to somebody else. There is no somebody else you can be a servant to. You're only a servant to Hashem. And at the Yovel, we break that cycle. At the Yovel, we break the cycle, we renew, we start all afresh again as well. The Ramban points out at the beginning of Mishpatim as well, that the reason why this is the first mitzvah of Eved Ivri, which is the first mitzvah after Matan Torah, essentially, in Parshas Mishpatim, is because it is the notion of a reminder of the cycles of seven. Seven is Hashem's creation and control of this world, which is why we remember it. The Yovel being the apex of this idea as well. In fact, when the Torah frames us that the time of the Yovel, the Torah says, the slave will serve the master that he wants to stay by forever. Forever is a little bit misleading. It says the forever is the biggest forever we have in Jewish society is 50 years. It's the biggest time cycle we have in Judaism, and that's why it is 50. But the point is that forever is not perpetuity in Judaism. Forever it comes in units of 50 as a whole. That there's an opportunity of changing things. There's an opportunity of life being better. There's an opportunity of restarting. As Rav Hirsch points out, all the precarious situations upon which the nation has fallen in its political relations to other states, all this, Yovel, is to wipe out and clear up. The nation is again established by the grace of God, socially healthy, politically free, even as it was in the first day of its national life, was started on the basis of God's laws. So that means to say there is the opportunity. You're not getting caught up in the corruption and the because and all the things that it was beforehand. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs points out a very beautiful point that if you compare the cycles of seven, the cycles of the 49 days of the Omer and the 49 years of the Shemitah cycle to the Yovel cycle, there's a difference in actually the way it's framed, and that is when it comes to Siras Omer, which everybody does, that is done in the plural, v'safartem lachem, whereas when it comes to the Yovel cycle, it's the safarta lacha, you'll count yourself in singular. And his point is, and to quote, implicity has an important rule of leadership. As individuals, we count the days, but as leaders, we must count the years. As private persons, we can think about tomorrow, but in our role as leaders, we must think long-term, focusing our eye on the far horizon. Who is wise? Asked Ben Zoma, and he answered, one who foresees the consequences. Leaders, if they are wise, think about the impact of their decisions many years from now. Famously, when asked in the 1970s what he thought about the French Revolution in 1789, the Chinese leader Su Enlai replied, "Too soon to say." And that's the notion of Yovel, is seeing things in a bigger perspective. With this, we conclude the first Aliyah in Parshas Behar. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.